Hello, I am Ilona, and in this video I will continue with trees and will try to find for any possible substrate remnants, some kind of languages in the Baltic region before in the European languages, for example. Yeah. In my last two videos, I talked about pine, spruce, fir, alder, aspen, and rowan tree, and today I want to talk specifically more about just one tree, a birch tree, because it is, I think, it is very important and significant tree in Europe, and maybe not just in Europe actually. Yeah. So if you live somewhere in Northern Europe or somewhere close to North, most likely you know this tree. I grew up around birch trees in Latgale, which is in Latvia, near the small birch tree forest. Birch tree is a very special tree for me personally, and I always felt this kind of connection with birch trees. And one of the things I noticed when I moved to UK, where I live now, it was the lack of birch trees. Actually, yes, I didn't expect that. It was quite a surprise for me. I was like, why they don't have birch trees here? Yes, there are some few, but really just very tiny amount. Let's start with the most obvious question. So, for the word birch, like in English or in some other languages, like in Latvian, Bērs, Lithuanian, Bēržas, Russian, Berioza, German, Birke. So you can see there are some similarities. So this one was to reconstructed to Proto-Indo-European root. This one, which means something like to shine, to gleam, whiten. So yes, this was like this usual naming pattern when you name something for how it looks. And birch, the tree which you really can't miss, and it has it's distinctive looks, and you will not mix it up with any other tree. Fun fact: the word bright and the word birch are yes same word. And for example, these Germanic names like Albert, Robert, Bertha also comes from the same root. At least this is what I found. Now let's step outside in the European completely and see what happens. So, for example, Finnish, Estonian, Livonian, uh, they are similar for in their language group. So it is different compared to Indo-European languages, but they still have their own word for a bird. What we have now is two completely different, I mean, two major language families living side by side in the area, in this region, have completely separate words for the same tree. And they didn't borrow it from each other. So basically, the word birch itself looks like, yes, there is nothing really deeper maybe going on here. I don't know. But also with these proto languages, it is all also still these are still some kind of like ideas. We don't have time machine, we cannot check. Yes, you can clearly sometimes see a pattern, but very often, especially when I started to look all these things, sometimes when it feels like there is connection, everyone decided no, it is just coincidence. When I think it is coincidence, no, there is connection. So it's so confusing sometimes. When it is coincidence and why, and when it is, and then at what point it is not coincidence. Can someone explain me that? But now I want to talk more specifically about other words which are connected to birch tree. But I have another channel where I will have another video about birch tree from more like this historical cultural perspective, something like that. Yes. In Latvian, there is this word sula, which means juice. And from what I know, drinking birch juice, how we call it, sap water, is not just Latvian thing, but in many countries I know, like most likely in Finland, Scandinavia, they also drink something. Maybe not, I don't know how they do it, but okay. So this is really a cultural, traditional thing to collect this birch sap. And now, if we look at what sula in Finnish, it is also means something like melting. This is what I found. I am not very good at Finnish yet. Yes, so spring related could be. So this looks like some kind of semantic overlap, possibly. But again, yeah, it can be again just coincidence. But I mean, how I think this kind of words can be very old. There is this pattern. There is this pattern for me. When I see it, it suggests me that this is something what we maybe had for who knows how many thousands of years. When you have this like consonant vowel consonant consonant pattern with only 3 or 4 letters. A word sula, if you read it backwards, is alus in Latvian, which means beer, and this is where it is again another coincidence. But I think it is the cognate in English, ale, and for example, yes, Estonian. I don't know how to pronounce correctly. Oulu, Finnish, Olut. Some kind of similarities here. For me personally, yes, it looks related. Okay, maybe specifically if we talk about Sula and beer connection, it is possible, but also, yeah, of course, it can be still coincidence. But how juice? What meaning of juice? What likely the meaning was that some kind of liquid, not the juice how we understand it now. And beer is some kind of liquid. And yes, I'm going now very much off topic, but last thing I want to say about the birch sap is that if it was also fermented, it stayed like you could have it in summer even, because while it's fresh, you'll have to drink it. Yes, very fast. It will be fresh maybe a few days. I don't know, maybe if it is cold, maybe longer. But at some point, it will go through this fermentation process. And what else is what is fermentation? What else is happening? Like the beer is also does go through some kind of fermentation. And if you have this birch stuff which is fermented, you can have some kind of alcohol in it. Another word for a bark, specifically, tas, that's it in Latvian, is this white part of the bark, like this papery one. We have this specific word. It's not like generic tree bark, but because for tree bark we would say mizda, but specifically for a birch bark we call it tas. And what I also found, which I didn't heard it in my life, but okay, maybe it exists. That, for example, linden bark in Latvian is called krie. And this is what you would expect from some kind of like hunter-gatherer people living in the forest, and they could have this very rich vocabulary for things which we don't even maybe need it. We have words for different things. So very possible in the European people, they didn't have these words. And some of these words probably survived. I can imagine how these hunter-gatherer peoples or any other peoples who lived there could have specific words for specific types of barks, not just trees, specific tree barks, but variety of the bark from the same tree, specific types of branches or maybe grass, younger plants, older plants, and who knows what else. But what I found interesting, again, possible connections in Lithuanian, also they have this word toshis, something like that. In Russian, also they have their own word, beresta. Then I was looking even more, and I found in Estonian they have a word for box toss. It's true. I don't know. I don't know Estonian, but I looked through Google Translate, and as you know, Google Translate can make mistakes. But then I also found in Russian they have these kind of like containers made from birch to S, something like that. And that is not also Slavic word originally. It is some kind of borrowing into Northern Russian dialects from the ancient Permic Komi language. Then, when I was looking through all these barks, what I found that, for example, for the tree bark, there is this word in Finnish "kuori," meaning like this outer layer. But in Russian, "kara" is the tree bark. And there is also a lot of other things. So one is supposedly from Proto-Indo-European, another from Proto-Uralic. Coincidence? Again, yeah, of course, it always can be coincidence. Sometimes you have these false cognates when the word looks exactly the same, but it is absolutely different word. But the thing is that sometimes we just don't know. And there are actually quite a lot of things which could happen. Uralic people did at some point, well, not just at some point, we still all do, but live near the Indo-European people. They already exchanged with some words thousands of years ago. The word loaning happened not once, but multiple times, and maybe even back and forth. So here we have few possibilities what happened. For example, Proto-Uralic, Uralic, Finnic languages at some point borrowed this Indo-European word, or it happened other way around when some Indo-European people or Proto-Indo-European people borrowed from like this kind of I don't know Uralic languages. Later loans from Slavic or Baltic languages could happen, or even Germanic languages. Or both language groups borrowed it from languages which don't even exist anymore. We don't know, maybe, with who these Proto-Indo-European people exchanged their vocabulary. Um, Even if something is reconstructed to Proto-Indo-European, it's not like it appeared out of nowhere at some point. People were just sitting and then they decided, you know what, we are now Proto-Indo-Europeans and we invent this word and this is our word. This is not how it happened. And Birch tree have a very long history about which I will also talk in my another video on another channel. Was that even Neanderthals did use birch tree, and they made this kind of like tar from birch. So humans had this connection, and they used the birch tree for a very long time, and of course they had names for it. How far back all these words go, we most likely will never find. Yeah. Thanks for watching and goodbye.